Are you a nervous wreck when you hop on a client call? Do you fall apart when money's on the line? I'm here to give you some simple tips you might be overlooking. I've been taking client calls for almost 5 years now, and this is how I turned myself from the kid who just got into sales into my client's new best friend. It's all about how you're perceived, and if you can't at least fake confidence, you're not gonna make it too far. Number one tip is to come over prepared, or at the very least, know their first and last name. But bonus points if you know the job. You should know the job title, the company they work for, LinkedIn, stock, and all of that. Studies show that people's ears perk up when they hear their name. So even if you're able to hop in the call right at the beginning, throw their name in the first two sentences, "Hey Jamie, how you doing today?" That's gonna go a long way. The key is not only to be an expert on the service you're providing, but the person you're providing it to. Know their company inside and out. Find out as much information as you can. That way, if anything pops up that they bring up, you can impress them with your knowledge or mention how you already know that. Tell them how hard their industry must be based on their position. It's stuff like that that's gonna really impress them. Our number two tip is to start with questions. Once you get introduction out of the way, questions is a real quick way to get them talking about themselves. And a great way to win somebody over is to get somebody talking about themselves. According to Harvard researchers, our brains light up in this very specific way once we start talking about ourselves. On average, each of us spend 40% of the time we spend talking every day talking about ourselves. It's a great feeling to be able to describe you and what you're interested in, so be the person that they associate with that great feeling. Number three tip is to use active listening skills. You gotta be doing more than just nodding along. You gotta ask follow-up questions. Things as simple as, how old are your kids, or what's your background? Stuff like that can go a very long way in establishing a connection. This should go without saying, but you can win over your future clients on nothing but your personality. If somebody's mediocre, maybe just gets the job done, but they're coasting by on their great personality, they will stick around, versus somebody who's mediocre or only does the bare minimum who people don't enjoy. I'm not saying you're gonna do the bare minimum, of course, but it gives you a lot more grace and a lot more leeway. Plus, you get to ask the questions that you really want to know about them. You can slip some of those in there. Number four is to speak with confidence. Make sure that you're controlling the call and controlling the conversation. Even if they ask you a couple questions right off the bat as soon as they get in there, you could say something along the lines of, "Hey, and I'll get to that, but I just wanted to know these couple things about you real quick." Often when we're speaking, we're feeling nervous and then we start talking fast and then suddenly all of our words get jumbled together and nobody can even make out what we're saying. And then that shortness of breath after you're talking so fast too, trying to catch your breath, that is not attractive to nobody. We gotta give our future client room for comprehension of what you're saying. Your goal should be to sound like the authority in your field. And part of that brings us back to question one. Make sure that you're well prepped, right? So you can have these conversations. Because when you're nervous, you get ahead of yourself when you're speaking and it's incoherent. I know because I do the exact same thing. Speak slowly and clearly. Enunciate your words. Make sure that everything can be understood. Try pausing in between your sentences, counting to 2 in your head, and then continuing on with what you were saying. It's little things like that that make you sound even more thoughtful and knowledgeable. Number 5 tip is to be honest and be transparent. Word spreads fast, and the quickest way to lose a customer is to be dishonest or overpromise. If you're asked a question you genuinely don't have the answer to, be honest about it. Say, "Oh, I'm not sure, but we can definitely look into that after." Or, "I know somebody who will be a great resource." Offer alternatives, but be honest that you don't know what they're asking. Also, if you aren't able to make a deadline, you should let somebody know that. This is a kind of a different conversation, but you just gotta be honest, you gotta be straightforward, and you gotta be upfront. Otherwise, you will be stuck trying to keep up talking about things that you don't know about and sounding goofy. Our number 6 and final tip is volume. And I don't mean the volume at which you're speaking at, but the amount of work you're getting done. The quickest way to beat your anxiety will be to continually put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I know because, again, I've done the exact same thing. You think getting on a call with somebody you've never met is scary? At least they want to be there. At least they want to talk to you. Try doing 30, 40, 50 cold calls every single day to people who don't even have time to speak to you. Trust me, volume over everything, and the quickest way to learn is falling on your face. That's it for tips. I wish y'all best of luck on your client calls. If you want to know more about over-delivering, I have a whole video on that over here, and you can subscribe to the channel over here. Appreciate y'all.